Alright, this is a game on Cliff in the Tier 8 Russian light tank, the T-54 lightweight. Has pretty good acceleration, mobility, turning with a so-so gun. The tank itself it's one of the more fun Tier 8 light tanks. So what we're going to do, or what I want to talk about on this particular battle, is more about how to play this sort of eastern side, particularly in a light tank or any mobile tank, really. You can do the same things that we're going to do here in a medium. And we'll talk about playing over on this upper plateau and on the lighthouse area. So when you look at these teams, the composition of the teams are slightly different. They have slightly faster team. They have 2 Tier 9 mediums, whereas we have 2 Tier 9 tank destroyers, which typically means that we have more tank destroyers in general, which typically means that our team is probably going to be a little bit more campy. That also puts a little bit more pressure on us to perform well on this upper plateau, because usually mediums will go up here because it's the sort of easiest place to go to trade. And so what you want to do in a mobile tank is push up into this area first for 2 reasons. 1, to get early lights to see what they send up here, and 2, to prevent their light tank from getting up onto the lighthouse early without getting spotted. If you can spot them there, you're not necessarily able to shoot them yourself, but your teammates can shoot them. So it's pretty good disincentive to light that guy. And so all you have to do is poke your turret over there in order to light those guys. And this gives us some intel. And we look at the sort of dispersion that we have. We have a 416 go over to the donut side early. Most of our tanks are headed to the 1, 2, 3 line, which is not necessarily that good. We have an E75, a Super Pershing, and a JT88 headed up here to back us up. So the nice thing about being on this side is that you can use this rock here to be artillery safe as long as their artillery is still in the base, and we have no reason to believe that he left, because we lit that path early on. We didn't see anybody there. Whereas their side is obviously artillery unsafe, as our artillery just got a nice one-shot on the T-34-3. Their Centurion and their Lorraine are moving away from me being able to proxy spot them, so I just poke up, and all I have to do is that in order to light them. And I see that their Centurion 7-1 is trying to cross, and the Super Pershing is trying to cross in the background. We have a JT-88 on this side, and our 416 is on the donut. And so what you want to try to do is be able to track these guys as they cross. So the Centurion 7-1 is tracked, the Super Pershing is moving along beside him. I'll shoot the Super Pershing before the Centurion in this particular case, because the JT-88 is also shooting the Centurion, so the Centurion is probably not going to make it out of there anyways, which maximizes the amount of damage that you're going to do here. And given the fact that we have a large amount of our tanks camping, we have 10 tanks over on this on the 1-2 line, and we basically have 5 tanks on this upper plateau, but we do have reasonably good control of it. We see that these guys are starting to push around the lighthouse, and so we want to sort of keep track of everything that's going on around here. So we know the SU-152 is right there, but he's sort of backing off. This 416 is in a position where he can shoot the Super Pershing, and the SU-152 is back far enough where he can't spot us. Meanwhile, they're sending 5+ tanks around the lighthouse. And so one of the things that you can do in a mobile tank is to go up here and shoot down on these guys before they push in and kill your 2 guys, because they do have a rather large numerical advantage over here. And so that's something that we're going to sort of keep an eye on. And the nice thing about being on this particular bit of ground is the elevation difference makes it so that the tanks down there have a very difficult time of actually shooting up at you, because they don't actually have the gun elevation for the most part to be able to shoot you. The further away that they get from the mountain, the easier it is for them to shoot you, but they also have other things that they need to deal with as well when they're down there. And so this T-54 lightweight is far enough away from the edge to shoot me, but if I angle my tank differently, and the T-54 doesn't really have the best gun depression, but if I angle the tank differently, you'll see that I can get a little bit more depression while being relatively safe from being shot from that T-54 lightweight. And so because I can shoot down at them, it makes it difficult. All they have to do is push this E75 on either side, and that will make they'll probably be able to make short work of him, considering the number of tanks that they have here. But the longer that they let me sit here and whittle these guys down, the sort of easier that it becomes. And then keep in mind that because we are at this great elevation above these guys, we're shooting into pretty soft armor. Even though, you know, these tanks are relatively heavily armored, the Lorraine obviously is not, but the 110 is pretty reasonably armored. But we can go right through it because the amount of armor on the engine deck, the tops of turrets, and the basically the top of any part of the tank is pretty low, so you'll be able to go right through it for the most part. And so they do eventually get forward enough that they can take out the 110. And so now it's just a matter of time before they clear the super Pershing. But you'll see that our 10 guys over on this 1-2 line have started pressing down now. And so they are getting themselves into a position where they can at least kill the arty, which makes one less thing for me to sort of think about. We're definitely going to lose this guy out here. We do have some more guys behind them, though.
It's a trap!
I don't really have a good shot on either of these guys without exposing myself, and ideally what you want to be able to do is prevent yourself from getting down to an area where you can be one shot from tanks, because otherwise the sort of threat of you actually shooting them goes down quite a bit. So this KV-5 is going to move forward. The 110 is looking back at our guys in the southwest, as is the T-54 light, which means that the KV-5 is probably going to be the most vulnerable to being shot, because he's the guy that's still moving forward. And you'll see that a lot of this is sort of conducive to this type of play, where I can just sit here, poke out, shoot down at these guys, and use basically back up to where I can actually still be in cover, which makes it certainly a lot easier for us to play this side. And so I just kind of want to see where these guys are, where they're going. At this point, it's just mop up. You know, even though we didn't dedicate a lot of tanks to the upper plateau area, we ended up playing it very efficiently, right? Between the JT-88, the 416, and myself, we dominated this sort of area with the help of the artillery, of course, who took out 34-3. And that's key, because it makes those other guys scared. You know, they had the 2 tier 9 mediums up there, but they knew that they couldn't stay there, because they knew that eventually, you know, there was no way for them to get unlet by me, and eventually artillery was going to get them. And then our team just eventually went through the 1-2 line once they sort of figured out that they didn't have much of their team there, and the rest was just pretty straightforward. And so, when we look at the stats, the stats pretty much reflect exactly what I said. So when you look at the amount of damage that was done by those tanks in the middle, you know, we did, what is that? Let's see, like 9.5K, almost 10K damage just between the 3 tanks that were up top in the middle, the 416, the JT-88, and myself. And a large part of that was just taking apart those guys that were sort of trying to creep across the middle area, and then in my case going up to the lighthouse and sort of trying to slow down that push to go around the lighthouse. And when you compare that essentially to the other 10 tanks in the game that were on the far side of the map, they ended up not really doing that much, because the game was decided essentially far before they ever started pushing down the 1-2 line. You know, just the fact that we traded so efficiently on that middle area and on those guys coming around the lighthouse essentially doomed their team, because they bled far too much health in both of those areas for anything that they would do on the 1-2 line to actually matter. And so that's sort of the importance of playing an area efficiently, even if you don't have a lot of tanks there. If the guys that you have there play efficiently, and their team sort of played into that as well. You know, they sent that Centurion 7-1 and the Super Pershing across the middle, and they lost a ton of health doing that. Right, they lost that T-34-3 to the one shot from the artillery in the middle, because he sat there where he could be proxy spotted. And then the rest of it was going up to the lighthouse and just basically getting easy shots into the the engine decks of tanks and basically the tops of turrets and things like that, where you'll essentially get auto pens with with all of your shots. So that's something to keep in mind, particularly when you need to slow down the that sort of lighthouse rush. But that's something that you can only really do if you control the middle as well, because otherwise it's really easy for them to come back through that middle side and flank your force, like that the Su-152 and our Super Pershing and the E-75 that were out front. You know, they'll eventually just be able to flank them from the center side. So the fact that we controlled the middle sort of made that lighthouse area even more effective to play, because we no longer had to guard the middle because we weren't afraid of a counter coming back through that area. So anyways, I hope that was helpful for playing this area in Cliff and sort of how to read that. And again, you can do that in a light tank. It helps if you have something with a little bit more gun depression, but you can also do it in mediums as well. You just need to look for the right opportunity to actually go up, ideally when you can't be spotted, and once you control that middle, and you can really wreck people as they try to come around the lighthouse. Anyhow, so that's about it, and thanks for watching.